Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Nazreen, welcome to the program An Insight with Dr. Gholam Mujtaba. आज हम इस प्रोग्राम का बेशतर हिस्सा अंग्रेज़ी में करेंगे नाजरीन, इसलिए कि हमारे मेहमानों में एक ऐसे मेहमान भी हैं जो अंग्रेज़ी में गुफ्तगू कर सकेंगे। वक्तन फ़वक्तन मैं उर्दू में भी गुफ्तगू करूंगा और उसका तर्जुमा करता रहूंगा। आज जो हमारा मौजू है और जो कौम के लिए मैटर ऑफ कंसर्न है वो ये कि पाकिस्तान और अमेरिका की रिलेशनशिप मुस्तकिल एक सिलसिला और एक कड़ी चल रही है जिसमें कभी अप एंड डाउन ये रिलेशनशिप हो रही है। ये सिलसिला एक तवील अरसे से अभी तक ना रुकने वाले तसलसल पे कायम है। जिस वक्त 9/11 का वाक़या हुआ नाजरीन, उसके बाद दुनिया की नजरें पाकिस्तान पे मरकूज हुई। उसके बाद जब टेररिस्ट से निजात हासिल करने की कोशिश अमेरिका ने की, उस वक्त भी इसी रीजन पे तमाम जहन लोगों का मरकूज रहा और सारे ऑपरेशंस होते रहे। आज इस वक्त सबसे अहम बात जो हमारे अखबारात और हमारे जरायद ने लिखा वो ये कि पाकिस्तान की इंटेलिजेंस एजेंसी के सरबराह, पाकिस्तान के लीडिंग स्पाई मास्टर लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल शुजा पाशा visited the United States. Lieutenant General Shuja Pasha, the Chief Spy Master of Pakistan, the Chief of the ISI Pakistan, had reasons to go to the United States, and he met there with the Chief Spy Master of the American Intelligence, the Chief of the CIA, Mr. Leon Panetta. As per reports published from time to time for the last few days in the newspapers in Pakistan and the newspapers in the United States, what we see is that the talks did not succeed as it was anticipated. Now the question is, what was anticipated, what people of Pakistan wanted to see, and what was the perception of the people of the United States? We have two different societies here, the American society, the American interest, the American national security interests. And then we have a Pakistani society, they have their national security interests and they have their own interest into the whole region. Now before going into the details as to what happened between the two spy masters and what could be the after effects of those meetings in Washington, in Virginia, we'll go into that. But before doing that, we'll discuss what are the interests of two nations here. What is the interest of the United States in this region? What are the security interests of the United States? And why United States is involved or deeply involved in this region? We will also discuss what are the priorities of Pakistani policymakers, why Pakistan is interested in the United States, and why there is a coordination between the United States and Pakistan. Today we have a regional head of the Royal College of Gynecology and a professor and dean of medical sciences at Buckeye University, Professor Dr. Peter Bailey. I welcome you here to the program. We have a second guest here who has been an educationist for years, had served the Pakistan Army as well, retired from the Army as a Lieutenant Colonel. I welcome Mr. M. Zafar to the program. Now before you, let me come to the first point, Peter. What are the interests of the American nation in this region? What are the interests of the American government in this region? Why America wants to keep its presence and visible presence in the region?
Well, I think that this region has always been part of the great game. Previously, it was the European powers and Russia. Now it is the dominant Western power, which is America. But the great game has always involved this region. And this region has had an importance that has changed over the years, but nevertheless has retained a major importance. It was originally, the great game was about the route to the Indian Ocean and colonies elsewhere. Then it became an ideological bone of contention. Now it is a bone of contention about stability and perceived points at issue, be they political, religious, social, whatever.
Let's come to the exact point, Peter. The American interest in the contemporary world, what happened post 9/11,
Yes.
the after effects of 9/11, what security interests were not taken care of prior to 9/11, and most of those being trained here in the region,
Yes.
as per what we have seen.
Right.
And what was the thing that was lacking at that time that led 9/11 to happen? And then what is going on now for the last 11 years, and what we are looking forward in terms of the American policy, in terms of the American national security interest, that we could not achieve for the last 11 years. What is the roadmap?
Well, I think you've got to start at a casuist simple level, bearing in mind that there's such complexity now that nothing is simple. That's the first point. Now, the question of 9/11 is part of complexity, that man is the apex predator. There are today more people in India than there were in the whole world 100 years ago. And this has made a lot of things of the institutions of state inadequate to deal with this complexity. Politics worldwide, you're finding minority governments, you're finding extremists. The rule of law has
Don't you
problems.
think, Peter, that the United States felt that a lot of the terrorists are being trained in this region?
Yes, no, that's right.
The region on the north of Pakistan and probably Afghanistan played the pivotal role in bringing the 9/11, and then those were trained there and they feel insecure if there is a status quo there. So what they want is to get rid of those elements, and in getting rid of those elements they have done an operation for the last 11 years. Is 11 years sufficient enough, or is there a need for furthermore 11 years to go for the administration and get rid of those elements? What is the story now?
Well, the story is,
where are we heading now?
if you're looking at it from the United States point of view,
yes, we are discussing the US now.
What they did was the Bush agenda was, let's not wait for attacks on our home soil, let's attack the people overseas. Again, making the mistake, the military mistake, in an increasingly complex world, the old adage, if you've got long supply lines and you don't win hearts and minds, means you're not going to win.
Let me put the question in a different way, Peter.
Yes.
In terms of Iraq,
Yes.
what we saw, that Colin Powell says today that whatever the evidences were shown in the Security Council of the United States were not true, were given it to him, and that led the operation on Iraq. Yes, we know it was a rogue state. We know that Saddam Hussein was a bad guy. We know that the people of the region wanted to get rid of Saddam Hussein. Those are all true. But in terms of American interest, had the Bush administration dealt with Saddam Hussein personally, it would not have been that big of a disaster.
Yes.
One. Number two, whatever would have been dictated to Saddam Hussein would have been implemented by him. He had to listen to the American policymakers, and American influence and policies would have been in existence there today. But what happened with the war is that the American policy has not been implemented. The American democracy has not been implemented. The democratic society we wanted to bring in is not there in order. So the after effects did not go in favor of the US policy.
Well, that's an interesting point.
So the best thing was, if I were to devise a policy, I would have get hold of Saddam Hussein, dictated him, and told him to follow what I needed him to follow. And that would not have brought such a big disaster. Things would have implemented without a loss of a single blood man, a single blood, no fatalities in the region, and things would have gone very swiftly in favor of the American policy, and we could have implemented democracy. But by going into war and doing those things what we did, we have an anti-phenomena in this society, and that the people have exploited that anti-American phenomena, and now it's very difficult to get hold of the region. Now, in terms of Afghanistan, what we see today is that the population is disturbed. People are disturbed. Yes, it is true that there is a priority for United States security interest and national interest of the United States. We have to take care of the security of the people of the United States, but that does not mean that you are winning the hearts of the people in the region. So the question is, are the United States policymakers winning the hearts of the people of the region by doing what is going on now, or is there a second option to handle the thing? Is this the only option to handle, or there are other options available for us?
Oh, I think they've made repeated mistakes. Let me put this to you, that if you go to Korea, Vietnam, Cambodia, Iraq, Afghanistan, they have intervened usually for quite reasonable reasons. But once they've intervened and said, okay, you are now free, let's have democratic elections, which produced chaos in all of those areas. So the question is American democracy as opposed to democracy. That's the problem.
Now, what could be a better solution for the American policymakers to work in the region? We are on ground here now. We know the realities of the ground. We know what the feelings of the society and the sentiments of the society is here. We know the odds, and we know what has to be done under the odds. What should we suggest to the American policymakers on ground, and what do you think, what could be the better solution?
Well, I think it's firstly, the point is, there's a military solution is not a solution. That's been clear for ever since Korea after World War II. The battle, as you pointed out, is for the hearts and minds, and the Americans have lost that.
No, I would not say they have lost it, but there is a room for improvement. And what room for improvement should be there? Well, what should be implemented? What do we suggest in order to win this war?
Well, in the long term, clearly the region will decide itself. And tied up with all of this is one of the great sweeps of history of Islam coming into contact with the modern world.
Peter, I think to my audience, as a member of the advisory board of one of the leading parties of the United States, holding a strength in the Congress and the Senate, the Repblican Party of the United States, I would suggest the policymakers sitting in Congress and the US Senate that the best option for the United States to win this war should be to win the hearts and mind of the people. Battle are never won by weapons. Battle, there is no win and there is no one who is a loser in any battle. The best thing for the United States is to win the hearts of the people and the minds of the people. How do we attain that? How those objectives could be achieved on ground, what we see today here, we'll talk after break, and we'll go for break at this time. When we return back, we'll continue our discussion.